ħanaddu għal Caroline Tonna li se tlaqana ma' 4 artisti dwar xogħlijiet interessanti li qegħdin jagħmlu.
Għal darbohra qed imwaslulkom servizz minn St. James Cavalier ġewwa l-Belt, Flapper Galleries fejn hawn 4 tiswali fejn ikun hawn esibizzjoni tal-arti u din id-darba għandna 4 artisti 3 minnhom huma barranin, Derek Nies, Paul Gibson u anki Wayne Hill. Kif ukoll ma' artisti ieħor Malti, Jean-Pierre Gatt li huwa fotografu. Dawn l-4 artisti ħadmu f'daqqa l-ewwel darba hawnhekk, ħlief Derek u Jean-Pierre li kienu diġà ħadmu flimkien u ħanaraw eżatt x'kienet l-idea ta' Derek li itella din l-esibizzjoni jisimha Juxtapositions. Derek, I welcome you on TVAM. I know that you have a very good connection with Malta. Back in the 1959, you were here as an art teacher, and then you became a full-time art director at BBC, and you have a very broad experience with TV, film, theater, and so on. But today you're here as an artist, as an established artist. So, Derek, what is your interest in the history of maritime and the sea? You're sort of to be drawn a lot to the sea.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm normally used to being the other side of the camera, so this is not quite a first. The sea in Malta is the most extraordinary, stimulating and unique creature. And with Jean-Pierre Gatt and with my colleagues and good friends here, we all, each in our own way, are intrigued by it. Its moods, its expressions, its every single emotion, every conceivable part of what can be expressed in the human emotion is expressed with greater depth and enormous power by the sea.
You like to go for long walks by the sea and you collect material that you actually come across. What do you do with this material in your art? How do you use these fragments?
I have a number of fishermen friends and artist friends who often call me and say, Derek, a boat has smashed up in a storm. Would you like some pieces? And that's where I start to get very excited by fragments, because those fragments in themselves have a former life, have a previous life within them. They are made up of layers of time and layers of paint, which breaks down and becomes an expression of that time and historical and so on. And that takes me back to being intrigued by the maritime graffiti here from the time of the knights and the galley slaves in prison. And the marks they made on the walls in the prisons were often of the only friendly home they knew, which was their ship. And their drawings are scratchy drawings of ships. The graffiti, if you like, from the 16th century are like an intense, childlike quality, and so they have huge emotion in them. I find that very exciting, and you come across things here to do with the sea which get you started. Unusual, unlikely things.
Wayne Hill huwa Amerikano stabbiliti ġewwa l-Ingilterra u huwa wieħed mill-artisti li l-fatt qed jieħu sehem f'Juxtapositions. Wayne, I know that you are known for poetry, because you're a poet, and in fact you are selecting phrases from your poems and exhibiting them. How did you manage to do that? And in what way will the viewer be seeing these phrases?
Right, well there's a section of the corridor coming into all of the galleries here that's a little bit darker than the rest, and so we're having 6 projectors in that small space, and fragments of the poems are going to be projected on the ceiling, down the walls, across. People will walk through them, so they'll be able to see bits of poems going across them, and they'll all make a new poem by being all these different parts coming at 6 different times, constantly, six different types of poetry coming around to each person. It'll be a way of welcoming people and enticing people.
Yes, and keeping in line with the title you've chosen for this exhibition.
That's right.
So now you are also moving from poetry into art, and you've done some big installations with water.
That's right.
This time you're using water on a different medium.
Yeah, small.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I've worked in very large scale before, and with Antarctic water and with industrial heating water and with overflow water from storms when it comes in floods. But this time I'm taking, like I think Derek was talking about the power of the ocean and the sea and how passionate it is. I'm taking a very small bit of water and painting that water in the middle of a piece of heavy paper and then laying paint onto it very, 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 very carefully and letting the water take that paint and then layers and layers and layers until I just walk away. And as the paint dries, the paint with all these layers of color in them does the painting. It paints while I'm turned out the lights and gone home. So it's sitting there in the studio overnight. The water's the artist and I'm staying out of the way.
Paul Gibson huwa wkoll wieħed mill-erba' artisti u fil-fatt waħda mill-kamra qed jesibixxi x-xogħol tiegħu. Paul, you bring in your architectural experience here. You're very familiar with Malta because you live in Birgu.
Yes.
Tell us all about this, craze for cranes and sea.
I am an architect, but I come and I'm fascinated in Malta by the contrasts and actually the juxtapositions of the architecture. Nowhere else in the world could you see a huge crane, superstructure of an enormous liner, houses, bastions, ancient fortifications, and a Baroque dome right on top. And they're all there, one on top of the other. And I find that a very thrilling environment, as an architect.
So how do you compose your art?
Well, I photograph a lot, and a lot of my work is done on the computer. In fact, really all of it that is on show here. So I tend to go out and take lots of pictures and then spend a long time looking at them and examining bits of them, and then going back perhaps and photographing again. So I think everything in the show here for me is within walking distance of where I live in Birgu. And so you can see how amazing the variety of things, from dockland, ancient, galley store, it's all there.
Jean-Pierre huwa l-artist Malti li huwa parti minn Juxtapositions u fil-fatt Jean-Pierre qed juża l-fotografija tiegħu biex iwassal l-arti. Jean-Pierre, fil-fatt il-ritratti tiegħek huma close-ups ta' oġġetti. Tista' tgħidilna naqra x'qed tipprova twassal b'dan il-messaġġ?
Mela, l-ewwel ħaġa dawn in-xogħlijiet awtomatikament ġew inspirati b'xi mod mill-kollegi tiegħi li qed nieħdu sehem f'din
Sezzjoni, tagħmlu f'daqqa.
Sezzjoni. U hemm xi xogħlijiet minn tagħhom ukoll li ġew inspirati minn dax xogħlijiet għalhekk ħloqna din il-Juxtapositions bħala titlu għal crossover ta' xogħlijiet li inspirajna l-xulxin. Daw id-dettalji li għandi hawnhekk huma ma xejn ħlief biċċiet u frammenti ta' affarijiet li ssib ħdej il-baħar, jew mal-kosta jew whatever. Imma jekk tkun għaddej minn hemm għall-passiġġata, ċans biru li laqas biss li ħadd innothom, li ħadd induna bihom, għax hemm ħafna affarijiet oħra jitelfu. Allura l-ħsieb kien li inneħħi dawk il-biċċiet u l-affarijiet li jkunu qegħdin itelfu u dejjem infittex li nidħol iżjed close biex insib affarijiet, biċċiet minn ta' żeba, studs, xi żeba qed taqa' xi pajpijiet li joħolqu mod ta' ritratt b'ċertu b'ġeometrija u grafika u affarijiet. U dawn huma r-riżultat ta' dan il-ħsibijiet. Illi ma taħsibhomx u ma tippreparhomx, huma affarijiet li tmur u toħloq inti għaddej.
Inħeġġiġkom li tiġu taraw din l-esibizzjoni ġewwa St. James Cavalier, il-Belt, li tibda mill-11 ta' Jannar sa' 16 ta' Frar.